My name is Evgeny Bogomazov, and I would like to provide information about the status of BGP security as of today. My presentation will be delivered in two parts, and in part number one, we will see what is the situation with traffic redirection, and then we will see whether or not things are that bad, as is shown on graphs about different routes. Yes, indeed, we will be looking at traffic redirection, probably in a little bit different manner. Today we will not be touching upon policies at all because things there are very well understood. And probably later when there are already models, things can be research and studies. But today we will speak about BGP hijacks. And in fact, many presentations, including on ENOG, can be done on this issue. Why we are addressing this issue again? Because over the past 6 months we saw several attacks that started using very complicated forms of these hijacks that are very difficult to monitor, and this is a matter of interest for us, and we will try to show why these attacks are really complicated and why it is very difficult to monitor them. We will also tell you how to identify the attackers in this case, and this proposal by RAP that we need to punish so attackers. How will it be possible to do that, how we can prevent it, and how we can mitigate them. But let us start with the standard example, and this is the attack in April last year on the cryptocurrency. So this was the attack on DNS servers for the first time. We have seen several such examples over the past several years, and in Plagiatank there was another example of the attack of this kind, and the users lost quite a considerable amount of money because of this attack, and it is necessary to look at this vector in a more serious way. But our view of this attack is a little bit different. It was very easy to monitor that. One could see it even before people started losing money, the more so that sign certificates were used. So users that must be using this cryptocurrency purses, they in fact should be alerted, and they should not, so to say, continue. But we ask the following question: can the attackers make the attacks more successful, and can they impact and affect more people? And unfortunately, the answer is yes. You can say the certificate for any resource that you need, and you can look at it. But we will try to discuss as to how the attacks on routing can become much more effective, and how much more traffic can be hijacked. But let us start from ABC. Probably over the past 2 days, you are tired of hearing what BGP is. Therefore, I will not be dwelling on that. But the most important issue is that in BGP, so there is an exchange of routes that contains a prefix and S-parse. And the major part of monitoring is based on the analysis of this route. The thing is that it is not secure, and any hopman change in it, anything you wish, and you may also change the prefix. Initially, so we were first looking at errors in configuration. So even if we protect ourselves from mistakes, that will already be something very good. In what concerns attackers will not look at BGP, at least they were not doing that in the past. We can also look at the routes that were definitely created by the attackers, and we can try to filter them out. But why attackers need to redirect the traffic, apart from backhauling and reviewing etc. If you are a transit operator and if you already have a part of the traffic from your customers, probably you will not be happy about the situation that your client receives part from your competitor, and the greater the traffic is from you is through your network, the more money you can earn, and that this can be used for non-bona fide competition. You have address space, you announce it in the internet. There is another operator that can announce anything he wishes. He can say that your address space or part of it belongs to him, and then the issue is whom to trust and whom to send the traffic. Within BGP, this issue is resolved very easily at the level of forwarding. You will be sending the route to the next hop. If you have several routes with different lengths of prefix, you will send your traffic in the direction that will respond to the longest prefix. If the longer prefixes are similar, for instance, you have similar lengths prefixes, then there will be several rules coming into play. And if your customer saves you money, you will of course prefer redirecting traffic directly to him. And if you receive both routes from provider, you will be comparing the length of these routes, and the shortest route will win. So, for 10 years already, we have been in the knowledge of 5 types of redirection of traffic, and they are, I think, very clear. You can try to steal traffic directly, either announcing the address space or part of it, and if you announce a part of it, then you will receive the whole traffic into it or from it. If you announce it fully, then so actually the previous thing will come into play, and different routes will be compared to see which one is the best route. Or probably you will say we do not want to be monitored, or we do not want to be filtered out, therefore let us add to us pass the autonomous number in the beginning, and then we will be able to avoid monitoring and different filters. And the very last step of attack, let us discuss that at greater length. What can be done? So for instance, a valid route to take a prefix and as pass from that, and the prefix is divided into 2 parts, and one half can be announced with the as pass that the valid route had, and you can receive the whole traffic yourself. Why and how? Because you have the valid S pass, and so next you have the longest prefix, because you announce a more specific route, so it will track the whole traffic in the internet, and because you announce the valid S pass, some of the operators will not be redirected traffic to you, and if you do everything correctly, you can return the traffic to those to whom it belongs. So the whole traffic will go through you, but the attacker will not even see that, because in all matrices everything will be perfectly fine with them. So if you announce the prefixes of similar lengths, then your coherence will come into play. And the better coherence you have, the more chances are that you will win. But this does not always work perfectly well, therefore, and by the way, we will be reverting to this situation to discuss it at greater length. But what you can do already today, there are 3 stages in any case. This is prevention of the problem from happening, also monitoring of the problem, and mitigation of the problem once you have discovered that. So when it comes to the prevention, you can tell us, operators, or actually about the address space that belongs to you, what operators are connected to you directly. Why should you do that? Because if they adjust filters, then they will adjust them correctly, and they will be able to filter out poor operators, poor routes, and so on and so forth. So if the operator is going to filter, he will be able to base himself on your information. But if in the region the filtration is not very good, then actually this will not help you. I mean, the prevention part will not help you. But what can be done? In the previous presentation, we heard about IRR and RAW. You can just set. This is based on sets that cannot be relied on because they have different problems. You can add any autonomous to this set, and those are prefixes that you get. So they represent a review of your customer con, but in reality it is not complete. And if you need that, you can spoof it very easily, and you can also adjust this byte list on the pages of your customers or peers. So if you got the route from IR1, then you will be relying on that, and then you will be able to filter out only local attackers. And if you are attacked from the region where the filter does not cover, then actually you will not be able to somehow do what is necessary. Therefore, it is so we have additional rule that makes verification not only of a prefix but also of a certain part of IS pass, and you sign this object in order for others not to be able to announce you. And the question that arises here, and the question that arises with many people, but what lengths are we supposed to sign? What does it mean when we say length? When you say that 622 belongs to you, and you 6/22, then if somewhere there is a prefix 6/24 with your signature, it will be considered not to be valid. But there are different cases that indicate that in actual reality we are not able to give you as a pass that will be equal to the length of your prefix, because you have different operators' obligations that you are supposed to meet. If in some part your route stacked, so is stacked, then sending a co-prefix there, you will be able to return this traffic to yourself. Another problem of RAW. RAW is adopted, but very slowly. Yes, you sign RAW, but the problem is that RAW will be active only at the moment when all operators that start filtering will be dropping the invalid routes. In all the cases, if they receive less local preference settings, this will not work. The situation with RAR is even worse. All co-prefixes that are announced, they are not considered to be valid, and there are people that dislike it, but we do not have any uniform policy as to how to build the prefix filter based on the data of registrators. And what is even worse, even if someone says that if you have /16 and you announce /17, this is bad, so this will be the opinion that will be stated by one or two persons, and all others will not be supporting your policy. And even if it is adopted as the standard, there will be certain time needed in order for it to be accepted. So if you will be able to filter out accidental mistakes. If you have prefix white list, then well, seemingly things are not bad. But in your client conus, anyone can attack anyone because you are not able to see any additional labels. And the additional problem is that I said so they're not exactly direct, and this can be configured on peering nodes. So there are certain limitations that in fact very seriously limit the possibilities of this method. And if you have correctly adjusted max length, and if you say that you do not want your address space to be attacked, then you will be able to protect yourself from objects on co-prefix. So if there is a filter adjusted, then they will be able to filter out poor routes, but the exact match for registration objects is not used by anyone except for very, very limited number. And echo mark lengths, we have alternative methods. We have on the one hand draft that says that we need to forget about this option, and on the other hand, so yesterday, so there was an offer to use /32, and all co-prefixes will be considered to be valid, and if there is an attack, so we will take care of that. And these two different views, they are in a sort of a conflict between one another. Let us proceed to a more interesting thing, and this is the IS path manipulation. On the one hand, why it is necessary to do that, the shorter the route or the shorter is IS path, the more preferable this route is. There is one operator who removes him from IS path and considers this to be a good practice. This is something that some operators see as a feature and they use it, but this is not correct because this violates many of the policies. On the other hand, you can add additional autonomous numbers to avoid these ISPs and also to use valid IS pass from other routes and pass all checks. On this slide, you will see 4 real-life cases showing how these manipulations can be used. The second and the third are particularly interesting on the one hand, so they are written by academics. On the other hand, they show how you can upload a certain link. If it is not uploaded in your infrastructure, you can send the additional traffic. If it is a critical one, then with this technique you can debug it, or you can bug it, and this manipulation is used for the most complicated attacks. And the real-life case that we present, so one transit provider in Brazil was using such methodology that allowed to redirect through himself all the clients to Brazil, and he became a crypt point, and any redundancy that was there, actually it would be leveled out. And this is a very poor, very bad situation. Why is it bad? As soon as you perform such an attack, this particular operator, even though he can receive part of the traffic, will start receiving the whole of the traffic, and the situation will become increasingly bad, and you may lose this traffic. Another problem, the problem is that typical filters that should be checking as path stop working, and I think so the most interesting thing is checking the neighbor, that is neighbor check. This is a very simple filter at the first glance. So when ISPass is sent to you, you must satisfy yourself that it came to you from your neighbor. But there is a problem, and actually the good thing about this check is that we can use this neighbor check in order to monitor the attacker. Why? Because he should add his number, autonomous number, to all segments that he announces, and if the path is long, then we will be able to see that. And so this, and it is possible to detect the attacker. Before we proceed with this method, I would also like to tell you about methods based on BGP sector and ASPA. So you see here the table with all pros and cons of both approaches. BGP sector is a special standard adopted by IETF to protect the routes that are signed with a prefix plus ASPA plus the next hop. And so ASPA does not work for the very last type of hijacks. At the same time, it is fairly light, and ASPA can be adopted everywhere. So the cryptographic load is such that the processing takes at least 1 day. Therefore, BGP-SEC is not widely spread, even though it covers all types of hijack. But yesterday, one of the colleagues spoke about one type of attack that is not covered even by BGP-SEC. The situation with you is a little bit better, but as it has been stated, because in the last attack, the valid ASPA is used, it is not possible to filter it out, though it is possible to limit the direction in which this attack can be sent. And if we remember, the prefix filter had the same coverage on hijacks that it can detect. But where is the difference? The difference is that ASPA adds new granularity, additional granularity. So if there is attack in your customer cone, it is possible to detect that attack because the attacker should have the direct route to your target. Therefore, ASPA adds certain flexibility to all of this, the more so as we do not have additional problems than SEC, and so additional philosophy is applied within the framework of RPKI. You sign your object so that it cannot be used by anyone else, and you sign your factors in order to pass through the filter that is installed by one of the operators. So we looked into most of the methods and techniques that allow to prevent bad route traffic from bad routes, and this helps major operators to filter these routes. But there is another problem. Not everyone installs filters, not everyone signs the information, and sometimes your traffic tries to be redirected, and then the question arises, what can be done in such situation and how to detect such cases. Of course, it is possible to look at traffic for a certain prefix that comes to you and do everything through the internal networking. But how to do that in a more correct way and in a simpler way? Attack on your subspace is more interesting for your attackers because they can get the whole of traffic all together. They simply need to find the route where none of the operators conducts any filtering, and then they will be winners. But you as operators know which prefixes you announce, and if you use open sources like RIPE-PRIS, RIPE-U, Clearinghouse, etc., and if you combine this information with yourself, then you will be able to find that one of your prefixes was violated, and you know that you have not announced that. So you for quite cheap you can detect such attacks virtually in real time. So attackers do not know the prefixes that belong to you, but you as an operator, you can do that very, very easily.
Но переходим опять же к более интересному. Мы обнаружили, что ваш адресный
So we found that your address space is used by someone else. How to find the one who expropriates this address space? the address space can be spoofed. But if we look at what autonomous aspects appear, then it is possible to find the attackers. In most cases, this methodology does work, but the problems arise when this critical point is really valid and is used in one another region. For instance, we have a major transit, which is the only exit abroad, and this means that all routes of this region will go through it, valid and invalid. Therefore, such cases need to be looked at separately. But this matrix is sufficient in order to find the attacker in this particular case. Apart from all of this, the critical point will be the transit for stubs, and this is well understandable, and everything is filtered out. But the problem is that if the attacker knows that we use this methodology in order to find him, then he will try to avoid it and bypass it. Probably it will be more difficult for that, and no one is monitoring that, and probably the attacker will not be doing that, but such a possibility is open for the attacker. Okay, so now we know that our address space is being attacked, and we carried out all the possible preventive measures. How can we try to get our traffic back to us? If you have recognized the attacker, you can write a letter to attacker or to the provider to disconnect him. But the problem is that it takes quite some time, and you cannot afford that because your business cannot stop for 1 day or two, and you need a very quick reaction. So in such a case, you can do at least the following. So you announce your more specific prefix, the most valid, the most acceptable one, and in such a case, in cases of such a conflict, the winner will be the one that will have a better connectivity. The attacker, in order to pass through all the filters, longer ISR path is needed, and if you are connected to IX or Tier 1, a majority of your customers will. So the situation is good for you, because if the attacker wants to avoid and bypass all filters, he will only be able to attract a smaller part of the traffic. But the problem is that if you use for your operational purposes sub-prefixes, and because of that you sign the max length, which is longer than your prefix length, then you must be ready to very expeditiously react to any fact of attack. And you can do it through very simple method, announcement, more specific, and you return most part of the traffic till you can get it back. But you should either be directly connected to a one, or you should delegate that to content delivery, or to those who have good coherence and who are ready to provide these services to you. Well, coming back to the initial question of this presentation, so we are ready to monitor most of the attacks that we have described, and our operators can also do monitoring themselves, and if they react to them in an active manner, then in fact they will not be faced with any major problems. But in most situations, because our spies are not yet adopted, and you will simply have to take care of the internal connectivity in the first place, and all these methods can be used even without knowing the location of the attacker, because the methodology for finding the attacker, so actually the attacker can avoid actually that methodology, so you cannot fully rely on that. But even if you do not know who the attacker is, you can get your traffic back if you have seen that you are subject to attack. This is all that I wanted to tell you within the framework of my first presentation. If you have any questions, I am ready to answer them. Are there any questions?
Your traffic is going through someone else, right? Actually, your latency will change at this point. So if you are monitoring the latency of your, say, app or say mobile app, yes, you will notice the change, most probably.
Okay, was mentioned that if you're trying to monitoring this kind of problem inside your network, you can find out that, yeah, you have some network problem by some side metrics, for example, latency or traffic drop for specific prefix. But if you're analyzing BGP routes that are accessible via RIPE or other collectors, it can be much easier for you. In case of it's an easy kind of attack, and most of attacks are easy to find and understand.